Hi, my name is Timothy A. Wilkerson. I remembered enlightenment in 1983 when I was 26. I was doing a meditation from the Book of Secrets where you pretend that the world is a dream, that everything is unreal, that it's fake. Not so much that you would risk your life, step in front of a bus or something, but you become habituated to the idea that everything is unreal. And then I did this for a couple of weeks, whenever I could remember it. And then one night when I was asleep, I was dreaming, and I was having a dream that I didn't really like, so I started changing the dream. Almost like a scene out of Harry Potter. I could wave my wand and things would change. And then I realized that I was making changes that, I couldn't normally do, that they were just outrageous, fantastic changes. Whatever I wanted, it would change. The dream would just be altered. And in that realization, I came to understand that I was asleep and dreaming, and I just filled up with light. And everything was real, just silent and bright. I realized that I was still asleep. And I don't know how long that lasted. I know I woke up really hungry, so it could have been, maybe even a day, just floating like. It felt like I was out of my body and floating, but I didn't even care to look over my shoulder to see if I was off the ground. It didn't matter. And I just floated like that until I woke up in the morning. My body woke up. I was awake. My body woke up, and it was still there. I wasn't floating, but everything was bright and silent, and I found it difficult to talk, to say anything in a complete sentence. It was really difficult to put words together. And basically that's it. The person that I knew myself to be just seemed to be gone. There was it was like being born again. I was starting all over. And after about a year, I could start putting sentences together. And fortunately, I didn't have a lot of responsibility, so it didn't matter. My family thought I was spaced out, or on drugs, or, they felt sorry for me. There was nothing they could do. And I was quite happy just moving along with my life. And after about a year, like I said, I started coming out of it. It was still there, but I wasn't so enthralled by it that I couldn't speak in full sentences. And since then, life's just been a joy. There, no suffering. All the suffering was gone. All the little things that everyone worries about, all these worries, there was no worries. There was no thought. I knew I was one with everything, that I was a part of everything. I knew that I would never die. I knew my body would, but that I felt immortal, like I wasn't any longer limited by anything that I had once thought.
That's pretty amazing. Um, I've heard of this happening for others, and I've been searching for this idea too. Can this happen to anybody? Can it happen to me?
Yeah, it seemed really ordinary. The experience was really ordinary. I uh, I think anybody can do it. I'm no one special.
What do you suppose led you up to this moment? I mean, can I do something that prepares me or opens the way? Was there any indication that this was going to happen? You said you were doing some meditations.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, my mom went to the local college, and they offered a class in yoga, and she started doing yoga. This was in, probably the early to middle, probably early 60s. And so I would just do it with her, and just follow her along and do these hatha yoga techniques. And one of the techniques involved a little bit of a meditation where you just sit and watch your thoughts go by, like you're sitting in an empty movie theater and you watch your thoughts go by. And so I did a little bit of that, and I continued doing yoga on my own for 17 years or so, quite a long time. And I think that probably helped prepare my body for the change, because there was a lot of energy involved. Suddenly I didn't sleep as much. I had energy to do whatever I wanted to. I think mostly because I wasn't thinking all the time and burning up my energy. So I think that's helpful to get your body familiar with the type of energy that it involves, and then to try as many meditations as you can find. Like I'd learned all the mantra ones and the breathing techniques. I tried them, and I did them for a while, and then lost interest because I couldn't witness any more changes. Eventually, I found a book that has 112 different meditation techniques in it, and I just went through them, and if one was working, I did it. If it felt like I was, if some change was coming about or some awareness of myself was coming through, I would do it. And then if it faltered or, it didn't seem to be making any headway, so to speak, I would just switch and try a different one. And I just read through them and see, oh, that sounds interesting, I'll try that one. So I probably tried about 50 of them, about half of them. And a few of them I had glimpses, and I think that's the key, that, not to get locked into some system, especially an older one that doesn't have as much contemporary value, and one, you don't need one that's, you almost have to learn a new language. There's very simple techniques that bring your awareness and help you become meditative in your life, ones you can do all day long. So I think even people with very busy lives can find one of these techniques that they can do on their own schedule. And, with someone to ask some questions to, it's helpful. But I found it by myself, on my own, pretty much. I don't think I ever met anybody who was enlightened, at least not to my knowledge. And so there wasn't anybody to ask questions to. There wasn't any internet. So if I could do it under those circumstances, and with all the help that's available today, I think anybody can do it.
See, I don't mean to sound like I'm blocking or anything, but, right, I have a busy life, I have kids, I have a job, and everybody right now is talking about yoga and meditation being the way or a way. Sitting and meditating, you spoke of other techniques, but I don't know that I can do those things. What else is there that I can do? Because I am seeking for something.
Well, one of the meditations that I really liked was where you pay attention to your butt. Because we sit so much, at desks, and our butt becomes kind of numb. Otherwise, it would be painful to sit that long. So, because that major part of your torso is becoming numb, the rest of your body becomes numb also. So, this is a meditation you can just do at work or at school or on the bus, is just pay attention and become sensitive about what you're sitting, how you're sitting, what you're sitting on, and feel for your butt. And as you do that, as you awaken this numbed part of your body, the whole rest of your body wakes up. The point being that it brings awareness, but you don't have to go, and sit in a room with, incense or any of that kind of stuff. You can just do it whenever you feel like it, as often as you feel like it. And if you forget doing it for a whole day or 2 days, it doesn't matter. You remember and you do it again. And you give it a couple of weeks to a month, depending on how often you can do it, and this starts bringing awareness to you. I actually got to a point where it was uncomfortable to sit. I'd, stand at my desk or stand at my duty station.
What about, like, I've read different books, or at least the titles, right? There's like Chop Wood, Carry Water, After the Enlightenment, The Laundry, or stuff like that. How do I, how do I bring this into my daily life, this like meditation thing? Can I just walk around and be meditative about what I'm doing, or do I need to focus on some special set of instructions in order to open myself up to this?
I think the key is just, for me, it was just paying attention to one thing at a time, whatever it was I was doing. Folding my laundry, and I'd start thinking about something else, I'd pull my attention back to my laundry. Meditation is a technique. It's not a state of being or something you achieve. There's meditation techniques that lead you to be more meditative in your life, and by that I mean more aware. Meditative awareness of what you're doing right now. We tend to multitask in this world, and that is contradictory to a meditative approach to life. So meditation isn't something that you do, it's something that happens, and there are techniques that can get it to happen, if that makes sense.
Okay, all right. All right, let's say this suddenly does happen for me, right? That's pretty amazing, and I've been seeking for a while. But then what, right? Like relationships, work, life choices. I still have to be able to function in the world unless I'm going to go live in a cave or have my own desert island or something. What can I do to still stay connected in the world once I've had this amazing awareness?
Well, that I've heard people be concerned about that. Enlightenment is a remembering of who you really are. It's an accentuation of all your senses and your abilities. So you actually get better at the things that you used to do, even though it seems a little disorienting. It's only disorienting because you're used to it being different. Now suddenly all of this input is there, and it feels great, and it makes your normal mundane life seem a little like unnecessary, but it doesn't hamper it, except that you may realize that whatever you're doing for a livelihood isn't exactly it for you, but it will help you find a new path to be more aware of your options, right? So it isn't the kind of disruption that you normally think. Now, if you didn't have anything going on particularly in your life, it might leave you kind of wondering for a while, what do I do from here? But if you have anything that you are already doing, you'll continue to do that until you make a decision or you start leaning in another direction, and then you change it. So other people may not understand that suddenly you seem happy all the time, and they may be suspicious of you. I had that happen. But as long as you can smile through that and know inside yourself that you've found something real, some truth, then there wouldn't be any problem just continuing what you were doing. And like I said, you get more options because you're more aware.
You said a little bit ago that for you all the suffering was gone once you had this experience. What does that mean? Does it mean nothing negative has happened in your life since?
No, I was just able to accept the good with the bad, uh, fighting against the bad things and only focusing on the good things turned out to be what was causing my suffering. As trying to control the world and only be in a good space all the time. It just made me miserable because it's impossible to do that. So
So challenging things still happen, but I don't care
yeah,
as much?
challenging things happen, but it's just a part of what is happening. Like uh, normally in an average person's life, there's good things that happen and they jump right into it and they enjoy it and they talk about it. And the bad things that happen, maybe they share in their misery with other people. But it's something they want to push away. And after enlightenment, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to push anything away. Just whatever is happening, I wanted to see that truth. I wanted to see what was happening and be a part of it. It didn't matter what was happening. So there was no internal fight trying to control things. Um, there wasn't anything to be miserable about because it wasn't in my control anyway. It's just what is happening next.
So I'm dropping labeling or judgment. There's all this conversation about dropping and holding, not holding on. There's like these actions that I need to do or something that I need to add to myself, I feel like, in order to have this experience. What is that about?
Well, holding on to things you can't change or holding on to viewpoints that only focus on the good without accepting the bad. That the viewpoint just doesn't include the big picture. And so you need to not hold on to trying to control things. People say let go, but it's more than that. Letting go is actually, you're still doing something. You're taking an action. But if you just don't hold on to what doesn't work for you or what has been making you miserable, you identify it and you don't hold on to it, it opens you up to more possibilities, to a direct experience of life without having to always think about it.
Okay. Does anyone ever just tell you that you're crazy? I mean, I grew up in organized religion, and seeking things for myself has caused some people to feel some kind of way about what I'm up to. Who do you think you are anyway? Jesus and Buddha did this, but our modern society doesn't really support anybody achieving this type of awareness in this day and age.
Yeah, it's pretty lonely, especially before the internet. There wasn't anyone to talk to about it, and the few people that I told didn't believe it. They're like, they thought I had an aneurysm or a tumor, or that there was something medically wrong with me to suddenly be happy all the time. And I learned pretty quick that being 26, no one was going to believe that I had any kind of wisdom. I didn't grow up in any kind of community where wisdom was even considered a thing. Old people were obviously not with it enough to know what was going on in the world, and no one respected anything they said, at least around the people I grew up with. So at 26, no way anybody gonna yeah, there wasn't anyone that could relate to it or embrace it, or I never heard anybody go, wow, how'd you do that, or how can I do that? I want to be happy, and it seemed like nobody wanted to know. They were already comfortable in, and that's, I don't blame them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're generally happy, keep going. I wasn't. I had a challenging upbringing, and I was very grateful to find the truth that lies underneath that. It's hidden, the hidden truth that's within us all. It woke up.
Now you keep saying to be happy all the time.
Mhm.
How is that different from like bliss or excitement? How does that compare to accepting the good, rejecting the bad, or accepting all of them without judgment? I'm not understanding exactly the clarity of that.
Happy all the time. Yeah, it's not an exciting thing. It's not like yay, wee. But you know how when you time flies when you're having fun?
Uh-huh.
It's like that all the time. It's not exciting, but it's happy. Uh, it doesn't mean that I don't feel sadness, or, it also doesn't mean that I don't laugh out loud. Uh, but in general, if you were to total everything, it would be happiness, a general sense of happiness. That, I wake up every morning going, wow, I'm still here, this is cool, you know. Uh, I don't do anything I don't want to do. And I think if people could just follow that, they'd be happy all the time. Only do what you want to do. Well, that's what I found out, is that I don't have to do anything I don't want to do.
See, that's kind of challenging for people though, because we still have to pay bills and talk to that boss we don't like and drive in traffic every day. Little tiny things that are just continuous annoyances to the average person. How do I not do something that I don't want to do? I don't want to walk the dog, it's raining. What do I do about that?
Well, don't walk the dog. But you also probably don't want to clean up the mess because you didn't walk the dog. So, bottom line, you want to walk the dog. I don't like, say I'm doing a job that I don't like all the aspects of it, but I don't fight it. I want to do the job because I want the paycheck. Now, if an opportunity comes up where there's a job that I like better, I'll switch. But bottom line is, I'm working because I want to. Because I want the paycheck to pay my bills. I want a house to live in. I don't want to live in my car. I want a car to live in. I don't want to live on the street. You're doing it because you want to do it. And, a lot of people think, oh, I hate this job. I don't want to do it. And then they focus on that and they're bitchy at work all day, No, you're there, so on some level you want to do it. Look deep and find it. Why do you want to do it? If you can't find any reason you want to do something, don't do it. But I'm sure everything you're doing, somewhere, there is a want of doing it, or you wouldn't be doing it. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but that from there you find a happiness, and where you're not fighting everything. You're just accepting what's going on, and enjoying it.
So I can enjoy the challenging things in the same way that I enjoy the good or happy things that happen in my life.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Because you don't fight it. You accept it. Your awareness is so expanded. I don't know, that's not really a good description, but your awareness is all-encompassing. You're aware of everything. It's like, I'm not in charge of everything. Why would I fight it? So if I can accept everything that's happening as what is happening right now, there's nothing to be unhappy or happy about. The happiness is just a way that you exist. And you could break it down into words, but it wouldn't add to the meaning of what I'm trying to say.
It doesn't seem like there's a lot of words for this experience. People have talked about enlightenment for thousands of years, and yet no one can really get to the definition where we can all just go, oh, I get it. Why is that?
Well, in our modern world, what we consider to be an experience of life is very much in our heads. We even wear clothing that separates our head from our body, and we're taught to focus on our head. If you bring your heart back into the equation, you have a full picture. And the heart makes decisions as well as your head. And the two together with a little imagination can free you from that suffering that occurs when you try to control everything intellectually. Does that answer your question?
We're getting there, I think. Are you a master? How does someone achieve all of these awarenesses that you're speaking about? Because it's always been said that a master is the one that does this, or a guru.
Yeah, see, there's a good example of a word that misleads, because being called or labeled a master means that you're a master of your own self, your own awareness. It doesn't mean you're a master of any technique or system or other people, or so that you have mastered your awareness of life and your involvement in life, and you've brought that awareness into the world and you still use it. You're still here. You've mastered yourself. You're not trying to control things, and in that is a mastery of life.
Huh. That's a very interesting... I like the way you said that. That makes it more ordinary.
Yeah, it's very ordinary. In fact, most of the words that indicate, someone of what most people would think is a higher standing, most of those words mean things like student. Like sensei means student, or any of the other words, guru. It basically means they're a student always of the moment. They're always in the moment, learning, accepting, being a part of. They weren't meant to indicate that that person is of any higher standing than you. That kind of awareness helps keep teachers in business, but it was never meant to be that way. That the teacher is actually the student. In fact, as over the years, as I had opportunity to help people understand these kind of things, I learned more about what I know. Like being in the kind of a teacher position, I'm learning more than I did before. So I am really the student when I'm trying to teach somebody else, or explain or guide or coach somebody else. I am learning just as much, if not more, than they are. It's like suddenly knowing what I know. I don't sit around and think, I can ride a bicycle. I am enlightened. I don't notice that until I'm around someone who's suffering, and then I remember, then I actuate the feeling that I'm happy all the time, even more, being around them. So in a way, I learn more by being around people who are challenging. And over the years, I've gotten stronger in that respect. So who's the student? It doesn't stop with enlightenment. That's just the beginning. It's like the butterfly coming from a caterpillar. It's no longer a caterpillar. There's that big of a shift where enlightenment is a remembering of who you really are, and it can't be put into words. You just know it. You're the butterfly. You remember the caterpillar, but you really, you don't have any direct connection to that. You've shifted and changed that much.
You say that you did most of this on your own. I've been doing some seeking and reading and so forth, but I really like your words. Do you have any books or websites, or do you take students, or how do things work?
Well, most of the people that have found some understanding from things I say were astrology and alchemy students of mine, where I could relate, especially with astrology. Alchemy is meditative, so that's just another form of meditation, but the astrology can help you know who you are, and so uh, as a tool to contemplate, you can, uh, I've been able to help people free themselves from the parts of who they think they are that are holding them back.
And you do this through one-on-one
Yeah.
connection?
Yeah, they come to me with wanting to know more about themselves, and so I do a chart for them, and it's one that shows them where their personality tends to lie naturally. And once you know that, you can tell very easily which parts of yourself aren't real, like they're either borrowed or somebody instilled them in you, or they're not true parts of yourself. And once you get to that knowingness of who you really are, that's when your awareness really begins to expand.
So taking time in whatever way to know myself is the easiest path of exploration to get to this birthright, this connected inner self of mine that's already there?
Yeah, it's like when you're a child, you kind of remember this energy and you're delighted, and that's why children have so much energy. But then, to survive, we're kind of we're taught survival techniques that take precedence, because enlightenment isn't a thing if you're dead. So you have to learn. You have to have things added to you, like you're not the kind of kid that would wander off into the woods and get eaten by a bear. You're separate, you're strong, you're smart, because these are things we need to learn to survive. Even animals, like a bear or cat, a big cat, they have to teach uh, their cubs to run away from danger. They look to mom. Mom is running away. They're going to run with her. And from that, they learn that they're separate and they could get attacked and eaten. And we have to learn that too. We don't run as well, and we don't have any claws or big teeth or powerful muscles, so we learn it intellectually. We try to stay ahead of the game. And those are the things that get in the way of really knowing who we are. So once we get to a certain age, we can set those aside and start looking at who we really are. Like after about 19 or 20, we get a part of our brain activates where we can make our own judgments. We don't have to rely on the rote things that we've memorized. But we can look at life, refer to our experiences and our training, but we can look at life and respond to it directly. That requires you to know who you are, how you respond, how you are naturally attuned to react or respond to your situation. And once you know that, you're free to enjoy yourself until you need to respond. You don't have to constantly roll over these protective thoughts in your head.
I find myself thinking a little bit about know myself to be an intellectual type of person. I'm an information gatherer. I like to have things in front of me to consider and reconsider. Do you have any books or sources that you recommend? Do you have your own book or source? What can you tell me about that?
I would... Well, I wrote a book about how to do astrology, which is very basic and ancient, and it's tied back into the stars, and it has to do with you as an individual. It's only similar to the modern tropical astrology. So learning that kind of astrology and the keywords helps you get into who you are. And then I was asked by several people to write down all these things I've said over the years to friends and family and even strangers who said, "Well, wow, do you have a book?" You know. So I just recently finished one I'd been working on for a while. It's called Awakening to Enlightenment. And I'll include the link with this video.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you could tell me right now that would assist me in my search? We've covered a lot of different topics all over the place. I want to get there.
Well, the biggest thing I find is that people would benefit from experiencing life through their senses and through their feelings in their heart. If they can set aside what they're thinking about, they can relax a moment and not worry about adding some new knowledge to their database and actually try to experience life directly, kind of like kids, you know, like an innocence, not childish, but more childlike. I think that's the biggest key to approach. And with that in mind, you can look for meditation techniques that work for other people, and there's 100 of them plus, and give them a try with that same kind of innocent investigation. Like, this meditation isn't going to add anything to me, but it might help me understand or might increase my awareness about life. If you can approach it that way, you have a really good chance of finding it within yourself, because the answer's there, and it could be pretty quick. Within just a couple of weeks, you can suddenly have a realization. And realizations come sometimes in glimpses, and with enough glimpses, your body kind of gets used to that new awareness, that new energy, and with enough glimpses, one day it just sticks. It's not like a goal. It's not something you can do on purpose. You can't make it happen. You can't think it to happen. Imagination helps you open up to possibilities, but nothing you can do can make it happen to you. It's already there. There's nothing to happen. It's more a question of finding it and allowing it its space without fighting it, without worrying about it. It's almost like, you know, you would give your life to know this. Then it can happen. That makes you more prone to happen. Understanding a little bit about it intellectually is okay, but it can't ever explain it, or we'd all already know this. There's been systems around for thousands of years, and why don't we know this? Why aren't we enlightened by now as a whole? It's because people are still intellectually trying to add to themselves. Oh, I went to Buddhist camp. Okay, well, put that on your diploma. It's a remembrance. Enlightenment is our birthright, you know. It's not an automatic, but we can do things to allow it to happen. And it just comes when it comes. It will come for everybody eventually, I think. But if you want it to come now while you're alive, you just have to be open to it and be as happy as you can. You can't find enlightenment as an escape from misery. That doesn't work, because it's already there. You need to look at what's making you miserable. Why aren't you seeing that it's already there? Get that out of the way, and then enlightenment is possible.